Hey, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Boundaries Unleashed. I've got a juicy new series for you, and honestly, like always, I cannot wait to just dive into this one. And I'm calling it the WTF series. Yes, you heard me right, WTF. Because let's be real, life throws those what the fuck moments all the time. And if you're a deeply feeling, mystical, recovering people pleaser like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those moments when you look around and you just think, wait, how did I even get here? This doesn't feel like me anymore. Have you ever had one of those moments? They happen to me often. Maybe it's about relationships, maybe it's your work, maybe it's unhelpful habits that have become your new norm, maybe it's just a calendar jam packed with things that no longer light you up or reflect who you truly are. Or maybe it's even a day that just feels hollow or just a waste of your gifts. Today, we're going to flip all that. We're flipping WTF, so it is something way more empowering. And we're going to change that meaning to wisdom, target, and freedom. And in this episode, we're starting with wisdom. So come on in with me. So let's set some context here. I wanted to do this series because there's just so much happening in the world and so much happening in news cycles. I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening, and it's hard to kind of separate ourselves from the world at play. And right, we are part of that world. We are part of the collective. And just the energy just feels like a lot right now. And so sometimes when the energy of the world can be a lot, we can almost take that energy and almost claim it for our personal lives too. And our personal lives are something we have a lot more control over. Obviously, global events, we have a little less control. Not saying we don't have some, but it's a little less. And so oftentimes that energy can be misdirected or redirected to upon ourselves. And when we're in these like WTF moments and we're looking around and we're just like, what is happening? Is this really me? Is this how I want to live my life? Is this really what I want? And so it's almost this feeling of being stuck. And I just want to just say, feeling stuck doesn't mean that you failed. It's just an energetic state. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean any of that, right? Stuckness is an invitation. It's an invitation to your inner wisdom that's, on a deep soul level, that's kind of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, love, something's out of alignment here. What are we going to do about it? Right? It's an invitation to change, an invitation to step into this kind of higher vibration, this higher vibe here. So instead of spiraling in shame and guilt about it, about feeling stuck or just not being in alignment, we can use those WTF moments as a doorway to clarity. And that's what we're looking for is clarity, right? And from wisdom comes clarity. So what does wisdom really look like when we're in that WTF season? And wisdom is about asking better questions. I talked about that in the last podcast episode. When you ask great questions, you get better clarity. And so wisdom is about asking those better questions: the who, the what, the where, the why of your life. Who are you giving energy to? And do they actually reflect back the person you want to be? What are you saying yes to and secretly feels like a no? Where do you feel most alive? And where do you feel most drained? Why are you holding on to something that maybe isn't yours to carry? So these are the questions you want to be asking yourself. This is where the wisdom comes in. So it's not about getting the perfect answer. It's really about just even being daring to ask the questions in the first place. Now, let me give you an example from my own life. So we all have our stuck stories. And sometimes that stuckness can look like confusion. Sometimes the stuckness can look like overwhelm. And so where this is highlighted in my life and a recent past experience was when I was moving across the globe last year. So I relocated from the US to Australia. And during that process, everybody had opinions. They had opinions about what I should do, where I should live, what would be easiest, what made sense. And yes, some of that advice was practical and helpful, even though sometimes judgmental. But at the end of the day, I had to come back to my own wisdom. What do I want this move to mean for me? What do I want it to mean for my family? How do I want to feel in this new chapter of my life? And once I anchored back into my own reality of who I am, what I value, why I'm doing this, I felt this real incredible calmness because it was an ownership. It was kind of retaking back ownership of my own experience. And I was feeling this calmness. And even though when you look on the outside, it was super chaotic, a lot of things were in motion, a lot of things were happening, but my inside was rooted. I really felt secure within myself to handle all of the chaos and handle all of the big changes that were about to come my way. And so that's the thing, wisdom, it's not always loud, it's not always flashy, and oftentimes it's a quiet truth that whispers to us. And we have to be still enough, we have to be intentional enough to be able to listen, to focus and receive it, and just hear it when we know intuitively that something's not a good fit anymore. The unstuckness is ready to be unstuck. All right. So let me offer a practical exercise that you can utilize today or whenever you're listening to this podcast episode that's really going to help you gain some wisdom and some clarity for yourself. So I want you to grab a piece of paper. If you're driving, just listen to the exercise, do it at home. Or the notes app on your phone. And I want you to create two lists. You're going to create two columns. And on one side, you're going to write down what are the drains? What feels draining in your life right now? And on the other side, you're going to write what nourishes, what is life giving, what is nourishing your life at this moment. And just write everything down. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be big, it can be small things, right? Even if it's that first sip of coffee in the morning that nourishes you. Write it down. It doesn't have to be something major, right? So just spend a few minutes writing that out. And if it feels heavy, if it feels like an obligation, if it feels exhausting, put it in the drains column. And if it makes you feel alive, if it feels nourishing, it makes you feel expansive, that goes in the nourishing column. Now, one of the reasons why it's important to write all these things down is it's very powerful to see it in print. It's very powerful to see it on paper. It becomes a very black and white feeling. And it also allows you just to observe it as opposed to just letting it think and swirl in your mind. And oftentimes we carry a lot of these drains with us that we didn't even realize. And sometimes when we write it down on paper, it's like, wow, it's really reflects back to you what your reality is. And again, you could be asking yourself, how did that even get here? How did that drain even come into my life? So the wisdom is just recognizing what's happening. It's recognizing, this is why I feel stuck. I've been living in the drain column majority of my time as opposed to living in the nourishing column. And obviously there's going to be some things that, we cannot take out of the drain column. However, if majority of your time and energy is in activities in that draining column, then this is where we know choices and decisions need to be made. And I always like to throw in a spiritual lens here for my mystic babes listening. I want to drop a little mystical truth bomb for you because wisdom isn't something that you have to go out and search for. I just always feel like that's important to remind ourselves that it's something you already carry within you. You have your own higher wisdom. You have your intuitive self, and so it's always there. So realize that it's not a book you have to read or a person, mentor you have to work with. The wisdom is inside of you. Now, books and mentors may help you understand the language better, but the wisdom is not outside, it's always going to be inside. And so that's one of the reasons why I love tarot, because it reminds us all the time that the wisdom is within us. If you think about the high priestess, right? It's that deep intuitive knowing, or even the hermit who carries the light, but only finds answers when he's brave enough to go inward. So if you're feeling stuck, know that you're not lost. Just know it's the volume of the outside world and voices of the outside world are just gotten a little louder than your inner wisdom. And so I want you to make a promise to yourself today that you're willing to turn that volume down on the outside and turn the volume up on the inside, and really let this series be a permission slip to just reconnect to your voice as the supreme ultimate voice here. So let's anchor this all together. Wisdom isn't knowing all the answers, because that's impossible, right? We're not going to know all the answers, but it's about asking the questions that are going to set you free. It's about saying, I'm willing to stop living on autopilot. I'm ready to get clear on what's truly mine and what can be released. And this clarity is the foundation for everything, right? When you know who you are, when you know what you want, what you don't want, life becomes a lot simpler. Life can become a lot more nourishing to us because once you have your wisdom, once you know and you have access to that, then you can set your target and then you can live your freedom, right? Do you see where we're going here in this series? So remember that wisdom is clarity. And when you know, you can take those next steps. And I want to send out an invitation for you too, because I feel like this series, the series came to me and I'm like, oh, I have to get this out immediately. And I feel like this podcast is an amazing gift. It's an amazing resource for you who, the listener who's listening, but there is a next step that you can really anchor it into your body and your mind and your soul, and that's through a workshop. And so if this episode is hitting home, I want you to join me for something special. I'm hosting a workshop just for this series, and I'm calling it the WTF Sacred Circle. All right. So it's going to be a 60-minute workshop. I'm going to walk you through the entire WTF framework together. So wisdom, target, and freedom. You're going to get a downloadable digital workbook. We're actually going to be doing it together in real time. I'm going to give you some guided practices during this workshop. And there's also just the feeling of sitting in a sacred circle with other women who are on the same journey. I feel like that is so powerful. There's nothing like a powerful sister circle to sit with. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. And so it's a great opportunity where you can get out of your thinking brain and get a little bit more into your feeling body too. And when those work together, that's really where the wisdom is activated. And so you're going to get your sacred inventory and you're going to do it with me live. We're going to figure it out, baby. And yeah, you're going to leave with so much clarity in your body. You're going to feel it in your bones, really. And it's totally free, so no obligation to feel like you have to invest your entire mortgage or anything like that, right? It's free. It just requires your time, but it will make a difference in how you feel, especially if you're feeling stuck, especially if you're just like, my life's okay, but I feel like a shift needs to be made. Or if I feel stuck, I feel like I'm ready for the next evolution, but I'm not sure what that is. This workshop is going to be for you. I'm going to put the link to register for that in the show notes so you can check that out with all the details, time, all that. Even when I'm in Australia and maybe the time zone, don't worry. Even if you can't make it live, I'm going to have a replay for you. But it's going to be an important session for you. And it could be just the thing that really shifts you and shifts that energy and gets you unstuck. All right. So before I wrap up this episode, I do want to leave you with some reflection questions because I feel like it's nice to anchor any, self-development with some real practical work. That way the energetic imprint stays with you throughout the week until we meet again for the T version of WTF, which is the target. So here are some reflection prompts or journal prompts that you can utilize either to ask yourself or in your journal this week. And the first one is going to be, where in your life are you saying yes when your inner wisdom is screaming no? So where in your life are you saying yes when your inner wisdom knows that it's a big, big, big no? Okay. And just sit with that. Journal on it. Think about it. Maybe even pull a tarot card about it. And then I want you to join me in the WTF Sacred Circle workshop and we can unpack that together. Okay. So just kind of get the motion going. Think about where in your life where things could shift and then bring it to the workshop and we'll workshop it together. Okay. In the next episode of Boundaries Unleashed, we're going to dive into the T of WTF. So target. And this is the area of this series where we're going to have the clarity, right? The wisdom. So once the fog is cleared and the wisdom is there, now it's going to be a reminder to us on how to dream again. And that's the target, is like, what is the target? What is the next step? What are the dreams that are within us that are ready to come out or actually get actioned on? All right. And I can't wait to dive into that. It's going to be so amazing and very inspiring, very motivating. So until then, remember, your boundaries are sacred, your wisdom is powerful, and your WTF moments are just the beginning of your breakthrough. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you sign up for this workshop, the WTF Sacred Circle. And until next time, love yourself like you mean it. Bye for now.